So before I make the bread dough, I just want to make a red bean paste to fill our buns with. So I'm just soaking some dried azuki beans overnight in cold water. That way they soften up a bit and cook a little bit faster. And then just drain them out and cook them over high heat with some water and some dark brown sugar, just until they're all the way cooked through and soften. And then you can mash them with a potato masher if you prefer a chunkier red bean filling. Otherwise, you can definitely just run them through a food processor if you prefer a smoother red bean paste. So now I'm just moving on to the bread dough. So I'm just making a tangzhong here, which I made before in my Bolo Bao recipe video, and I'll link that down below in the description box if you're interested. But basically, you're just whisking together a portion of flour along with the milk in a small saucepan and just whisk it until it's smooth and cook it over medium heat until it resembles a thick white viscous paste, just like what you see there. So now for the rest of the bread dough, you just need to add everything into a bowl of a stand mixer. So that includes some bread flour along with some yeast and 3 tablespoons or 45 grams of granulated white sugar, along with 1 large egg that's at room temperature preferably. And then for some richness and added flavor, you want to add 4 tablespoons or 56 grams of unsalted butter that's melted and preferably liquid at room temperature. And of course, don't forget our cooled off tangzhong. So then go ahead and just lower the head of your stand mixer, make sure to lock it in place, and just knead it on medium to medium low speed using your dough hook attachment. It should take a total of 20 minutes to knead, and you'll know it's done when it's nice and soft, silky smooth, and elastic, which I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So once you've plopped your little dough creature, I suppose, onto your work surface, just form it into a little ball there. And the way you know it's elastic is if you insert your finger into it, it should leave an indentation or a dimple in your dough, but then slowly rise back up. So therefore there's some springiness to it. You work that gluten in the flour, so therefore it's nice and elastic. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead and move on and place your dough ball into a large ungreased bowl. Go ahead and cover it so it doesn't dry out on top, and place it in a warm spot for about 1.5 hours or so, just until it's doubled in size. So now we're just going to move on to that cookie dough crust or topping to our buns, which is a signature for Bolo Bao or pineapple buns. So there's actually no pineapple in this, contrary to the name. So not sure why. I mean, I think it's because it's supposed to resemble a pineapple once it's baked, the topping that is. So either way, let's just go ahead and move on to our cookie dough topping. So it's just a mixture of butter and sugar in a stand mixer that I whipped up for about 3 minutes until it's light and fluffy. Then just add 2 large egg yolks at room temperature. That way it gives us that nice signature sunshine yellow color, along with secret ingredient, which you'll find out shortly. So just make sure to also scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. That way everything's getting incorporated thoroughly. And then for our dry ingredients, we just need some all-purpose flour along with some baking powder, a little bit of salt, as well as a pinch or half a teaspoon of ground dried turmeric, which is the secret ingredient that really amplifies and enhances the yellow color of our cookie dough crust. So go ahead and just dump all your dry ingredients in. There's really no frills to this. It's very simple. Just mix it together until it resembles a cookie dough. Then go ahead and just form it into a log that's roughly the same girth and width. It should be pretty soft and pliable depending on, you know, how soft your butter was. So later on you'll notice that your dough needs to be pretty soft when we actually top the buns with this cookie dough. So go ahead and just wrap it up. I was still waiting for my bread dough to double in size, and it was a little bit warm where I was, so I definitely just popped it into a fridge so it doesn't melt on me. So you can see here about 1.5 hours later, my dough is nice and full of gas. And just go ahead and just deflate it, fold it into itself, just gather up all the sides, and just at this point we're just going to divide our dough into, I did like 15 servings, so it's pretty small, I would say. It's like a smaller size Bolo Bao, which I like. But you can make them as large or as small as you like, of course, it's up to you. You do have to change the baking time if you make them a little bit smaller or bigger, so just keep that in mind. So I divided mine into 15 servings. And again, those are 15 smallish buns. So of course, if you have a scale on hand, definitely use that. And I think mine were, about 30 to 35-ish grams per ball. So if you want to make 15 little Bolo Bao, you can definitely do that. So I'm just making some here that are plain. I just rolled them into a round sphere like that, place them onto a lined baking sheet. But then there's some also that have the red bean filling that we made earlier. So go ahead and just shape it into a little round ball like you did with the plain one. Roll them out with a rolling pin, and then just add a little, like maybe 1 tablespoon dollop of the red bean filling. And then just gather up all the sides and edges of your circle. And I do like to make sure that I twist it so it's completely enclosed and there's no risk of, the red bean coming out. You don't want any holes here, definitely. That would be bad. So just make sure you give a really generous tight pinch there at the bottom. You can also roll it around. Sometimes I find when I roll it after I pinched it, it does unravel on me, so it might be better just to pinch it. I don't know. You could just play around as long as the bottom is pinched off and sealed. So now I'm just cutting the cookie dough that we chilled earlier. Just make sure that it's kind of soft but pliable, kind of like Play-Doh, edible Play-Doh. And I just used 2 of those like 1/4-inch slices for the larger buns, which is the red bean buns. And then I'm just using a cleaver here. It's especially helpful if you have a Chinese cleaver at home. Of course, you could use a rolling pin, just roll it out as thin as possible. This is probably about like 1/8 of an inch thick, so it is very, very thin. And I found that's a secret to having your buns rise but at the same time have that crust around it. Sometimes if it's too thick, which happened to me the first time that I made this, if your cookie dough topping is too thick, it'll actually weigh down the bun and flatten it out, which is not what we want. We want it to be a nice round bun at the end of the day, so after it's baked. So you do need to have that cookie dough topping very, very thin. So now go ahead and just cover it. I'm just using another sheet pan on top. I'm trying my best not to use as much plastic wrap here. And then just go ahead and let it double in size. It takes roughly, I would say, an hour or so. And then just brush it with a little bit of egg wash, which is simply a mixture of egg and some water. Like about a tablespoon of water to 1 whole egg. And then for the ones with the red bean in it, which you'll notice are a little bit larger because of the filling inside, and I just topped it with some black sesame seeds there. And then go ahead and just bake them off for about 10 minutes or so at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I would say 10 to 12 minutes depending on your oven. Just make sure they're nice and golden brown once they're done. They should be golden brown around the edges and just lightly golden brown on top on the cookie dough crust. And of course, you gotta let them cool down, just like any bread. Bread is best when it's fresh, of course, but do try to let them cool down, that way they don't dry out. And you can see inside, it's just so soft and light and fluffy. And I just love the contrast with that crunchy, buttery cookie dough topping. It's delicious. And of course, I really love the red bean filling mixed with that soft, supple bun. It's so good. So definitely try this out at home if you don't have a local Chinese bakery to go to. This is definitely a way to bring the local Chinese bakery to your own home. And let me know in the comments below if you try this recipe, as well as thumbs up the video, and don't forget to subscribe for new recipes every week. And I'll see you back here next time. Bye.